Going here now. There we go. We're live now. All right. I don't have an audience yet. Let's see if we can get anybody to come back in after all that stupid fucking around with tech and trying to figure out why things weren't working the way they were supposed to. So we got a couple of people sitting out there. Well, we did have. Let's go. Now that we are live, we will see if anybody can come on in and see what we're doing. And so this is the Sam, live on radio. Thank you. So let's give this a try again, folks. A little classic start to scintillating live radio. And this is the Intrepid radio program right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. And you can find us over at odysy1.com. Come on over here, all the archives that are over there in audio form only. And that's where you can hear this show. And now I'm just setting up so we have a stream that's out there that people can actually see. And we're going live. We're going live. We are live right now. Hey, Sarah Nichols, good to see you. We are about 40 minutes into the scheduled program before we had access. So here we are, folks. And I want to welcome you to the show. And I'm seeing a bunch of messages come in from my Facebook channel, my Facebook page, which is probably about this show. And let's see. No, maybe not. Maybe not. So there we go. So folks, if you're streaming into the live stream, here we are. We may not do the regularly scheduled show, probably because we won't have time to get to any of the material tonight. And I see Sarah. How you doing? Field guy, I see you there. Let me know if everything looks and sounds good over there on your end. We finally got it figured out. Have no idea what was causing the problem. I had to actually take another program and dump it and restart the computer to make this work. So Odyssey is down right now. Power is down. Oh, see, I didn't know that. So I'm not over on Odyssey tonight anyway. We're just doing a live stream here tonight. And so as soon as people get the message, I left it in the old chat room about 20 minutes ago that we're going to just start up another live stream. And so here we are with the Intrepid radio program. I'm not flustered, but it does piss me off when stuff like this happens. So pardon the technical difficulties, folks. I don't think it has anything to do with the ice storms down here in Louisiana. It's got nothing to do with any of that. This is all just computer and tech error of one form or another. So I'm not sure why it was doing what it was doing, but we're back now. And I see people starting to come in. Master Finn, good to see you. There we go. We are live finally. 45 minutes into the show, 44 minutes into the show. And so there were two people I followed that had the same problem with OBS and YouTube. And you know what? I have OBS on my computer. I've never set it up. I haven't used it yet. That's why we're doing all live shows and none of the pre-recorded shows, because I hadn't set up OBS yet. Excuse me. Maybe it's the way OBS works on a PC. That might be it. And so we're just here on the YouTube channel tonight. And I want to thank everybody that's coming back in. Odyssey rarely works for me anyway, said Field Guy. It's usually just an audio stream, Field Guy. All I have to do is go over and click the play live, I think it says, or something like that. And you can listen to whatever show was on there. There were two people I follow had the same problem. Okay, I see that. And so power is down. Odyssey Radio is, I know they're located in Texas. I didn't know if they were up in Ohio as well, where Russ is. And so, hello again, Morgan Snow. Good to see you. Roger Rabbit. Good to see you. Yep, here he is. Hi, how you doing? And so we finally got some things going after some tech. I had my very own IT guy here, in Pete, my friend. And Pete was looking at it and said, I have no idea what it's doing. So we finally just dumped a program and rebooted the computer. So we're back up. If I had my own radio show, I'd probably. Yeah, thanks, Pete. You bet. Thanks. I don't know if you all heard that. You probably did. If he had his own show, he'd know how to work that. Well, I've only been doing radio for 20 years. I haven't hit that yet. So there's a surprise for me. We had a surprise the other day. Something wasn't working right again. And sometimes you just get hit with some tech thing and you go, why is that doing that? So that's bothersome. But as you see, I don't have my soundboards. I don't have my professional mic. Those are all back in my studio at home. And I don't have the professional program set up for doing the actual show. So we're just doing, we're doing a show that's we're starting to piece all the little missing tech pieces together as we go. And so right now, here we are. I'm here. You owe Pete $1,500 now. Shut up, Doug. Pete thanks you. He'll give you your cut when you take him out for lobster or something. So now we're here, and we've got 15 minutes left. I hate stepping on other people's shows. Now he's not on the network, but Jimmy Johnson has Beyond Reality Radio. He's just a good friend, and I hate doing that. But if he doesn't mind and you don't mind, we can go ahead with our regularly scheduled show, just about 45 minutes late. And so if you're all okay with that, let me know, and we'll just go ahead and we'll do a regular show. Otherwise, we'll go for another 15 minutes or so and be done. So, JV's a rerun tonight? Well, there you go. This one's live. Thank you, Doug. And so we'll go ahead with the show. If everybody's up for staying up a little later, I know you all like it when we do an extended show, and most of you stick around. So let's just call this a late start extended show. How about that? Or an early start extended show. Let me take a drink of water. So one of these days, we'll no longer have tech difficulties. Yeah, right. Now pull this leg and it'll play Jingle Bells. All right. So, Mr. McFinnicus. I don't know who that is. Oh, Matt Finnicus. Gotcha. JV's a rerun. So that's good to know. You could open another White Claw and push back bedtime a while. How about that? I like that idea, Roger. So, yeah, I kind of wanted to do something talking about, again, into some more psychological stuff, but talking about what's known as the Dark Triad. Now, I'm not talking about a burger builders group or the Illuminati or anything like that, or a video game. Do any of you know, without looking it up, off the top of your head, have you heard of this Dark Triad in personality traits in psychology? Do you know what that is? Do you know what it means? And don't let the illusion of being blue fool you. He doesn't listen to me anymore. Are you talking about me? Am I not listening to you, Matt? What did I miss? So, yeah, Barbie D, the live show got changed. The stream got changed because we had some tech difficulties through YouTube suddenly not taking my presets. So, Iowa X says my lawyers told me to say no. Matt, I listen to you all the time. I hope you're not talking about me. I might miss what you have to say sometimes because I'm talking. But there's Matt Finn saying JV's a rerun. That's the last thing I saw. Hello, crew. I got whiplash from writing all these streams. Yeah, me too. And I kept booting the show, and it would have none of it. Okay, that's good, Matt. I'm glad. I try to always listen to you. So there we go. So the Dark Triad. Anybody know what that is? Iowa X's lawyers told him to say no. And the Louisiana trifecta ruled JV streams until we all left. And that's not what it is. And yeah, I'm sorry if anybody, just for future reference, if you come to the stream and it's not going, just sit around and watch for an announcement or watch for the new stream to start up. Because if we're having tech difficulties, I usually announce to everybody who's there in channel that, hey, we're going to have to shut this off and start it up again. But it's not going to start up in the same link. It's going to create a whole new link. So I'm gonna have to go back on my YouTube page and delete all of those blank tries. So thanks, Matt. I know it's part of typing. Typing is secondhand communication at best. So you don't always get all the nuance. Hey, hold on. I'm gonna go close the office door here. All right. So there we go. Dog, you can go out. Kip, thank you. All right. The dog Gipper, not Kip. And so I think YouTube is buried on an Indian burial ground. Yeah, you might be right. Hey, Rock and Rhonda, welcome back. And anybody, if I've missed you coming back in, welcome back to the show. And you're welcome, Barbie D. Let's see. Did you listen to my friggin' link? I haven't had a chance, Matt. That's how I'm just backed up all the way up until I get on the show. So my apologies for that. I haven't listened to it yet. I've got the stream saved or the link saved, and I just haven't had a chance to go in and listen to anything yet. I've got other people calling me and asking me or sending me a message, will you listen to this show? And they're broadcasters. Will you listen to the new test? And I go, yeah, I'll listen to that. Might not get to it for a couple of days. So yeah, now we're fighting. Now them's fighting words. So we had some wild weather up here, as I mentioned last night, and you all know Texas in the south has been hit kind of hard. We had 12 below zero the other night. We had a big ice storm. They called it thunder snow and thunder sleet. Got up this morning. It was cold, but it was like Minnesota cold. It's something I was used to. It was like 25 degrees. And I stepped outside, not a cloud in the sky. The sun was shining, beautiful, rich blue sky, but there was a layer of ice. Well, that was yesterday, a layer of ice over everything. It was cloudy yesterday. This morning it was sunshiny, and all the roads had melted off because the sun comes down even at 25 degrees under freezing. That sun will beat on the roadways and melt them off, especially where there's traffic. And just out here in our own driveways, it was all melted off, other than little patches in the shade. And so it was pretty nice today. Sam and I went out and we were knocking on some doors in some neighborhoods. And just to give you an idea of what we do in an area that was hit like this by the 2 hurricanes last fall, there's a lot of people that aren't getting their stuff fixed. Roofs, especially roofs that have leaked and destroyed interiors of homes, hurricane fencing, sheds, outbuildings, carports, car garages. All of that stuff's getting destroyed. And everywhere you go down here, you can't go 100 feet without seeing another house with blue tarping all over it, or trees even smashed. I took some pictures that I'm going to put up, but just houses where the whole middle is completely smashed in from a tree, and nobody's lived in that house since last August. And nobody has any idea what's going on with those houses. A lot of deserted homes. It looks like a war zone at times. And we went into some neighborhood where there's $1 and $2 million houses today. And Sam and I are walking down the street. We're walking down the middle of the street, quiet neighborhood. And we were commenting on how warm it felt. That sun is nice and warm. It got above freezing, and it's supposed to be in the 60s by the weekend. So every day is going to get a little more. We're supposed to have a little snowy sleet here tomorrow. Just so it's kind of going up and then down one day, then back up and into the 60s. And so, yeah, people leave and they don't come back. It happened after Katrina, Field Guide says. Yeah, we're getting more ice after midnight, says Doug. And so all of that is still happening. But we noticed that it didn't feel all that bad, but yet there's still a lot of things that are still closed down and around here. And so that's winter in the South. When you get severe weather that they're prepped for up in Minnesota and Wisconsin and the out east in the northern states, they're all prepped for that. They have snow plows when it actually snows, and they've got road salt and sand to take care of the ice. It's not happening here. And so rather than have those things available, because it rarely happens, it just shuts everything down. So that's the way we've been. And apparently now it seems Odyssey Radio is shut down. Well, they're over in Dallas, Texas is the headquarters of that. So, part of Mojo 50 Radio. And so it looks like even if I had recorded a show for the radio show today, wouldn't be there anyway. So not sure I'd want to deal with that level of storm damage as a trade-off to the cold. Yeah, there it is. And then when it's hot out here, you get all that damage and you get snakes and scorpions. So the one woman I'm dealing with right now, where it looks like we're going to replace her roof and deck and all this stuff. She lost her well house and all of her hurricane fencing is gone. There's some of the hurricane fencing sitting in some of the brambly woods that are next to her house. And she had some people out looking at it that were going to help, relatives going to help put up her well house again. And they lifted that up and they found a whole bunch of snakes living under it. And they just dropped it back and let it go. Oh, I think we'll skip that for today. And so I'm getting people commenting. It looks like on, I think it's on this show, and they're probably promoting porn. I saw something come up and it had Russian in it. And so I always go in and try to delete those. If you ever see those, you can report them. Because I don't want those guys take advantage of every show that's out there and they try to post their ads for stuff. And I like to get rid of them right away. And because I don't like that shit on my show. So anyway, that's what's going on around here. I think weather's going to start improving. It's going to start getting nicer. We're now 9:58, 2 minutes till the official end of this show, but we're going to keep going. Since Jimmy Johnson is doing a repeat today over on his broadcast, and I like to respect his time as a fellow broadcaster, he's doing a rerun. We're going to go ahead and run with this show tonight. And ew, snakes, says Susie Q. Hey, Susie Q, how you doing? Good to see you. So I had mentioned in the actual original intro of this show in type that was on the intro of what we're doing here tonight, that we were going to be doing a show about the Dark Triad. And so it's like, what's the Dark Triad? You may well ask. And I asked you if any of you knew what that was, because we're going to go ahead and start. What am I seeing here? Pokemon Hidden Fates Charizard. I don't know what that is. That's over here in my in all my history of what's been going on. Maybe that had something to do with. Maybe there's some kind of thing that's come up that's causing a problem here. So I'm looking for my notes on the Dark Triad, and it's right here. And so I have how to recognize what the Dark Triad personality traits are. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. And there's a little bit more about this Dark Triad thing. And I want to identify what it is. If you don't know what it is, we're going to take a look at it. And I'm looking right now. There's an online personality test. And I'll see if I've got the notes in here where we can take a look at this as we start to define what this is. Let me take a look here. I want to see if I've got that test link available here. Personality disorders, so on and so forth. Bloody, bloody, bloody. Dark Triad scale. Long-lasting relationships. Quick and dirty tips. Yeah, I don't see it in here, so I'll have to find it. Oh, maybe this is it. Hold on. Beware the malevolent Dark Triad. So when you say Dark Triad, what comes to your mind? If I look at that and I say, do you know what the Dark Triad is? And if I didn't put anything in there about it being historical, you might have a big question about what that might be. So what do you think? Give it a shot here, folks. I'll give you a minute here to give me a shot of what you think it is. What is the Dark Triad? And while you're doing that, I'm going to see if I can pull up the Big 5 personality test right here. And this is, and I'm going to ask you some questions tonight. So if you've got a pencil and a piece of paper, I am going to ask you some questions. And we're going to take a little test. It's a 50-question test. And you just have to mark off one letter for each one, as your choice. And the Big Five personality test is what we're going after. Now I'm looking for it right here. It's right here, and I've got it open. Okay, so let's dig into this a little bit. What do you think the Dark Triad is? Do you know what it is? Let's see, Chinese, something with that. No, Morgan Snow. It's not Chinese. It's a street gang in Cyberpunk 2077. No, field guy. Good shot, though. Personality types existing in a single person or a group. Bingo, Matt Finn. It's personality types. You can find these within a single person. Dark Triad is a marriage I got fooled into 2 times, says Doug Stack. Matt Finn says that's when you know it's screwed up when it works for. Oh, that's something else. Sorry about that. Makes me think about current political figures when that phrase is said right now, even though that's not what it's about, says Roger Rabbit. Narcissistic traits, says CW. You're spot on. And I have no paper or pen, no test for me. Oh, Barbie. That's too bad. It's just a personality test. We may or may not get to that. We don't get to the test tonight. That's where I asked the question, the original title. Are you part of the Dark Triad? Wanted to draw people in with that. Maybe we won't be able to hit that till tomorrow. Psychopath is part of it, Rhonda. That's a good stab at that. That's part of it. Me, myself, and I, says Susie Q. Smiley face. There you go. All right, let's take a look. What is the Dark Triad? I'm going to give you a definition of what it is. And it kind of goes like this. And you have to beware the Dark Triad, the malevolent Dark Triad. And be cautious of your involvements with someone who fits the profile of the Dark Triad. And think of the Dark Triad of narcissism, psychopathy, or psychopathy is what it looks like, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. Now, I never knew Machiavellianism to be a personality trait. That's what they're calling it. If you think of Machiavelli and his book, The Prince, and where we get a lot of great quotes out of that, but it's also pretty dark when you think about it. This is in a sense, the Bermuda Triangle of psychology. It's perilous to get near it. Things disappear in it. And the traits of all three often overlap, and they create these personality profiles in us that are damaging, they're toxic, especially when it comes to intimate relationships where we let our guard down. Doug said, yeah, I got tricked into 2 of those Dark Triad marriages. That's not so far off from being true, even though, we use these flippant or we make comedy out of it and so on. For example, there's like one woman was the subject of identity fraud. Her bank accounts and credit cards were all compromised. And at the time, she was in love with her boyfriend who lived with her in the apartment. She was speaking regularly with the FBI. She suffered extreme anxiety, emotional stress, and the authorities were unsuccessful in finding the culprit. And her fiance was very supportive in doing his research to help find him. He comforted her, occasionally bought her gifts, paid her monthly rent out of money she gave him. And when eventually the landlord confronted her about months of delinquency, she realized that the criminal was in fact her own boyfriend, who'd been pocketing her rent money except to buy her gifts. Her denial made it difficult to accept the truth about his ruthless gaslighting. So that's an example to look at as we start getting into trying to define what the Dark Triad is. And maybe you will recognize some of these things in people. Yeah, Scott Allen, we're back. How about that? We're here. We're back. And we're continuing on late overtime because we can. And it took us a while to correct the difficulties, but we're back. And so what is the Dark Triad? Here it is. Let's get down to the brass tacks. It was a term that was coined in 2002 by Paulhus and Williams. And the Dark Triad usually refers to three unusually negative personality traits of narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. And we all kind of know who Niccolo Machiavelli was. You can look up his work, The Prince, and you'll see quotes out of that that we use a lot in current politics. Now, the latter two, Machiavellianism and psychopathy, those two share more traits with each other than with narcissists. And generally, the term refers to individuals with subclinical symptoms, meaning that they may not necessarily fully have narcissistic personality disorder or any kind of antisocial personality disorder. But Machiavellianism rose out of Machiavelli's philosophy. And it's not really a mental health disorder at all. It's just his philosophies. So narcissism is characterized by what? You've seen it. We talked about narcissism on the show for a while back. It's characterized by the pursuit of ego gratification. It's vanity. It's a sense of superiority, grandiosity, dominance, entitlement. That's what narcissism is. Machiavellianism is marked by manipulation, a calculating, duplicitous, amoral personality that's focused on self-interest, personal gain. Hang on, I'm a little dry. I'm going to take some water. Psychopathy is distinguished by callousness, impulsivity, enduring antisocial, and bold behavior. So what is the Dark Triad? It includes all of these kinds of personality traits. Now, mind you, you can look for these in yourself. You can also look for them in the people that you are intimately involved with, whether in a relationship, like a romantic relationship or a business relationship or a friendship. These traits are going to come out. You're going to see ego gratification in the pursuit of it, vanity, superiority complex, grandiosity, dominance, entitlement, manipulation, calculating, duplicitousness, amoral, meaning no morals, just like we had lonely. Yesterday we talked about this is amoral, focused on self-interest, personal gain, and callousness, impulsivity, this enduring antisocial, bold behavior. So these are the things that mark the Dark Triad of personality traits. Recognize any of those? You recognize anybody around you who is in that? Morgan Snow said, "Oh boy, that all fits him." I don't know who we're talking about there. Well, that sounds a lot like my daughter's boyfriend. And you put with an LOL at the end. Maybe you don't need the LOL on there, huh? So keep your hands where we can see him, Doug, said Roger Rabbit. Fly me to the moon. Among the stars, fly me to the moon. However that goes. And we all know these types, Matt Finn said, and that's the truth. CW said, my second X fits the bill. Now, let me qualify something here. I believe some of these traits are things we all may possess. There's not anybody out there who doesn't have some of these traits. Maybe to different degrees, maybe not the other negative aspects that highlight it or enhance it, exacerbate it, if you will. And so we may all recognize some of these. We may all have a bit of grandiosity sometimes, where we see ourselves or make ourselves look or feel more grandiose. We push our own egos sometimes because we want to gain something, or we need the attention of something or someone. So there are people out there who have some of these things, but when you put them all together is when you have the biggest problems of all, the personality disorders. What do you say no to, Rock and Rhonda? Oh, talking about Morgan. Yeah, her boyfriend with his selfishness almost set my house on fire last night. Oh, that is a good oh no. Sorry to hear that, Morgan. That's pretty crazy. You got to watch somebody with behavior like that. I agree. They're in our basic programming. This is the truth. Perhaps wisdom is what keeps us from acting on these default settings. You're right. Aren't there? Haven't we talked about? We talked about on Sunday's show a lot about the things that are part of who we are that we don't act on certain things. We were talking about sexual behavior. We were talking about how guys, maybe people in general, are drawn to someone sexually, but there are certain things we have to put the stops on because there are social mores in place. There are things that we just don't do for the sake of not hurting ourselves, not hurting other people that we're intimately involved with. So there are all these things that we have going on. Firebugs are very dangerous, says IOX. Yeah, they can be. If you have 300 of them crawling on your face, that can be dangerous. I haven't seen one firebug, a single firebug, be dangerous. But unless you're referring to using firebug as somebody who sets fires, what's that called? A fire setter, somebody who likes to do that.
Pyromaniac.
Pyromaniac. Boom. So maybe that's what you meant, Iowa. So let's look at this a little more, a little deeper into this whole thing of what this is all about. Recent comparative research on the Dark Triad, these three things, psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism, it's attempted to analyze differences among these three malevolent personalities, and all to varying degrees. They all act aggressively, out of self interest, and lack empathy and remorse. They're skilled at manipulation and exploit and deceive others. I was married to a person like this once, very manipulative, very exploitative of others. Somebody who you would say, ever feel this way? You feel like you're being gaslighted because you could say to people that know you, I know that this is what they're like, this is what they do. But then those people become exposed to them and hear those people talk, and I didn't hear any of that at all. And you're like, God damn it, I know that they're like this. And so that's a manipulation, an exploitation. It's deceit of other people's through their motivations and their tactics. And they might vary from one another, but they're all there. They violate all the social norms and the moral values. They lie, they deceive, they cheat, they steal, and they bully. And it's not that genetic factors might underlie their personality to some degrees. It's like my ex wife is a bipolar person, and she has some personality disorders, and which have raised over. We've been divorced for 20 years, so a lot of that has come out over the last 20 years as well. So you look at that and you say, and I look at this person and I say, she has some personality things. My son, my daughters, even at times have expressed, oh my God, are we going to be like her? Are we going to have the same problems? And because they want to make sure they are not suffering those things. And some of it is genetic. You have to watch out for that stuff. And I don't know if you've run into people like this that you know, but some of it's Amanda B says, my personality is a trip. Ain't that the truth? Working out the voices. I believe you, Amanda B. Down in Australia. How is your weather down there today? It's still summer for you, isn't it? And she is, Amanda B is actually from the future because she's living in tomorrow already, where it's like 2 p.m. down in Australia. So, Matt Finn, Morgan Snow says, me too. Now he's sitting in the dark. He made my German come out. Matt says, wisdom and experience should guide you above those default settings. It should. You should think that somebody with these characteristics and these traits should be able to see them and have a little bit of wisdom guide them, a little bit of understanding and education. Amanda says, a few of them, man, and it's windy, it's raining like crazy, it's cold, and the dam is 99.8% full. If released, I go under. Oh boy, that's not a good place to live. So he's lucky that's all that comes out. Let's go back into this. Let's see what some more of this has is about, and what we need to, uh, how we need to understand these things. Um, Machiavellianism and psychopathy are more closely related and correlated due to their malicious behavior. But narcissists are defensive and more fragile. And it's because their grandiosity and arrogance is this facade for deeper feelings of inadequacy. Now, we spent a few days, almost a week, talking about narcissism in relationships a few months ago. But men outnumber women with this, primarily when psychopathic traits are measured. And that doesn't mean just deceit and manipulation, etc. And so the difference is linked to the overt antisocial behavior associated with psychopathy, suggesting that it may be due to biological factors, such as testosterone, may be behind all this. Testosterone, where do you think we get testes from? Testicles. It's a male thing. It's in the male hormone. It's how males work. And so um, I'm just looking at some of the things that people are having to say here. So shark nursery, mama have buns in the lake. Oh boy. So you got shark excuse me, sharks in your lake. I have a dry throat tonight, folks. Sorry about that. All the coughing. And so all three types, the narcissism to a lesser degree, scored low on agreeableness, measured by the Big Five personality test, which is what I want us to take tonight. Now it's 10:20, and we didn't start till about 10:40. So there's more to say on this, on what um, the Dark Triad is. I think we'll go through that tonight and finish that off, and maybe a little bit tomorrow, and then we'll go into this test and spend some time in it. I want to take some time. Here, I'll give you an idea what this test is before we actually do it. Um, the Big Five, it's the Big Five personality traits are the best accepted, most commonly used model of personality in academic psychology. And if you take a college course in personality psychology, this is what you're going to learn about the personality and rating and testing it. And so the Big Five comes from the statistical study of responses to personality items. And there's an assessment here that we can look at. I'm going to give you an idea. There are three answers to every one of the questions I would be asking. There's 50 questions. 50 questions, 50 questions. But you can either one of three: disagree, neutral, or agree. So you can for tomorrow, prep yourself for tomorrow. Get a piece of paper and write down, if you want, 50 lines, and you can put the disagree, neutral, and agree. And you can add those all up at the end. And there's 5 bullet points with all of these. So in between disagree and neutral, there's a bullet, and in between neutral and agree. So you actually got 5 things you can do. I disagree. I kind of disagree. I'm neutral. I kind of agree, and I agree. Now that's how this is going to work. So I'm going to have you. That's all I have you take the test. But I'll give you the first few questions, and we'll do the full test tomorrow as part of the show. I think it'll be kind of fun. So we'll all test our personality traits tomorrow. So, first question: I am the life of the party. That's not really a question; it's a statement. I am the life of the party. Now, how would you answer that? Disagree? Kind of disagree? Neutral? Kind of agree with that? Or I fully agree with that? So, how would you answer that? And you mark down where you are in 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in those bullet points. Second question or statement: I feel a little concerned for others. I feel little concern for others. You disagree with that all the way up to the scale to I agree with that. If you agree with that, you'd mark I agree. I am really little concerned with other people. Disagree as much as possible, says Roger Rabbit. Yeah, it does sound a little bit like an interview. It's a personality test, and some interviewers, HR departments will require a test like this in your interviewing process. So there's let's just hit a couple of more questions. We'll do the full thing tomorrow night, but third one is I am always prepared. Disagree? Somewhat disagree? Neutral? Somewhat agree? Or agree? I'm always prepared. The fourth one is I get stressed out easily. And again, from disagree all the way up to agree on that 5 bullet scale. I get stressed out easily. I have a rich vocabulary. Same thing. Disagree to agree. I don't talk a lot. Well, I disagree with that. I talk a lot. I like to talk. I talk all the time. I talk for a living. So there you go. That's an idea of what's going on with this test. We're going to hit this tomorrow. We'll do this test tomorrow. So come tomorrow prepared. It's fun. You don't have to turn it in, or you're not going to be rated on anything, but you can rate yourself. This is the kind of test that they will give you during a job interview. In other psychological settings, you might have to be given this test and take this test. And the outcome of this will give you an idea of what kind of personality traits you have. And so when you're looking at the dark triad of things, you can take that big 5 test, and it assesses these things: extroversion, neuroticism. Are you neurotic? I think every time say neurotic, I think of a purebred miniature poodle. That will. They're neurotic. Purebred dogs are neurotic anyway. So extroversion, neuroticism, agreeableness, conscientiousness, openness. These are the things that they rate. Agreeableness differs from charm and charisma. It involves trustworthiness, unselfishness, straightforwardness, compliance, kindness, modesty, which are all essential things for good relationships. Ask yourself even now as you think about it. Am I unselfish? Am I straightforward? Am I compliant? Am I kind? Am I modest? Am I trustworthy? So these are the things it's going to rate by all these different kinds of questions that it asks you. Machiavellians and psychopaths are more lacking in conscientiousness. They don't think about other people that much. So they lack conscientiousness. Why work when you can cheat and steal? Psychopaths have the lowest level of neuroticism or negative emotions, which makes them really the most sinister. Psychopaths, did you know that? The majority of psychopaths rate very low on neuroticism and negative emotions. Predictably, narcissists are more open and much more extroverted. They're outgoing people. Openness correlates with evidence that narcissists tend to be creative. So, I hear all those things, and I've read those things for over the years. I'm very outgoing. I like to talk. But I'm conscientious of people. I like people. When I go out and I'm selling roofs and home repair with this construction company, a remodeling company, home builders, and I like to find the things that people connect to and talk with them. And when they tell me they've got some problems with this or that, I try to go out of my way to be open to them, be conscientious of their needs. I try to teach my children to be conscientious of the other people in the family. When you are in the house, I tell my kids, and you leave your mess all over and you go to school and mom's told you to clean up your stuff and you didn't, she's got to pick it up because she's got a guest coming over. You know what? You're not being very conscientious when you don't help clean up your own messes, that's not being conscientious. I teach my kids. So conscientiousness is something that a narcissist does not really have naturally. Beth says there's a brain scan that can tell you if you're a psychopath. Oh, I'm almost afraid to take that one. So, um, what else we got? There is this dark triad. It includes deception and all three personality types: this psychopathy, the Machiavellianism, the narcissism. They all lack honesty and humility, which includes sincerity, faithfulness, lack of greed, fairness. They lack those things. All three of them do. You see a narcissistic person, they're not very honest and they're not very humble. And that honesty can be maybe sometimes, maybe they're honest about things, but they're not honest about motivations and manipulation. So, lack of greed, fairness, all of that stuff. And so, a study of cheating revealed that all three of these personality types will cheat when the risk of getting caught is low. When the risk is very high of getting caught, psychopaths and Machiavellians, when their energy is for thinking is low, will they cheat? Both will intentionally lie. Narcissists have high levels of self-deception rather than intentional dishonesty. You get that? Self-deception is very high in narcissists. There are psychosocial consequences for all of this. The comparative, and by the way, let's look at the time. It's 10:28. We got started at 9:45, and so we've got roughly 7 minutes left of this show tonight to call it an hour because we got started so late this evening. So let's go on for a few minutes here. Um, the comparative research examined a variety of behaviors for psychosocial consequences, including aggression, bullying, sadism, aggression, violence, erratic lifestyles, that's impulsivity and risk taking, substance abuse, sexual activity, which is bizarre fantasies, infidelity, sexual harassment. Now, I have to say one thing only because of the times we live in. Infidelity can be defined by being dishonest and breaking trust with someone else in a loving relationship. That's how I'm defining infidelity for this. Because as we all know, and I know people, I've got friends who are. It was never a lifestyle I pursued, but like sexually, they had open marriages, and they were very good people. You would never have thought they weren't like scuzzy barflies with tattoos and tramp stamps and had to go screw everything in sight. It wasn't that. They were very good people that said that was their sexual lifestyle. It wasn't infidelity for them, or it would be infidelity for somebody else. Because now I'm using the sexual because that's where we usually plug in infidelity. And so infidelity is that unfaithfulness, that disloyalty, that breaking of trust with someone else, is what I mean by that. Sexual harassment is another one. Socio-emotional deficits, which is like lack of empathy, low emotional intelligence. Do you know people like that, by the way, who have, maybe you don't hear that term used that way, low emotional intelligence. Do you know people like that? Their intelligence quotient, if you will, their IQ, when it comes to emotions and emotional interactivity, is low. It's like a 47 in the IQ category. They don't think that way. So low emotional intelligence. And I just throw out that arbitrary number. That's not an actual scale that I was using. So their um, theory of mind of these people are all fairly similar. They, in other words, to attribute, own, and others' mental states. So there's poor well being with these people, depression, loneliness, stress. Those are actually those happen in everybody to a certain degree, in certain levels. And all by themselves might not be indicators of negative activity, but these are things that these people who have these negative this dark triad of, of psychosis will experience depression and loneliness and stress. You'll see that in them. Interpersonal problems of dominance, of entitlement, of self-aggrandizement, immorality. They have lack of values, deadly sins, if you will, and moral disengagement. Morally disengaged. In other words, standards don't apply to me. I don't have to go by those standards. I'm disengaged from that. And antisocial tactics, cheating, lying, negative humor, things like that. Now, negative humor, don't jump on that too quickly. I'm not talking about behavior or good comedy or dark comedy or sexual comedy or things like that that some people, oh, that's a little shocking. Not necessarily the shock jock type of thing, but negative humor could be the kind that is damning of other people, that is hurtful. If you didn't know that they were trying to be comics, you'd go, whoa, about that person. Machiavellians and psychopaths scored higher in these psychological issues. Psychopaths twice as high as narcissists. And the highest scores were among psychopaths, with aggression being the highest trait. Narcissists scored in the categories of aggression, sexual issues, interpersonal difficulties, antisocial tactics. And among all three personalities, most of the high scores were due to psychopathic traits. And when those were controlled or removed altogether, narcissism still accounted for interpersonal difficulties. We got 7 minutes of the show left and so much material on this. I hope that this is interesting to you. It's interesting to me because I like to make a study of watching other people, observing what goes on around me. I help control my own behaviors by raising my intellectual, my emotional intelligence. There are things I put the brakes on in my life of ways I could act. Might be natural to think this way, and then you think about it and go, I can't do that because it would hurt somebody else. And so there you go. That's where these things hit. Beth Kirkham says it's more interesting if you are too. If you are Lou. More interesting if you are Lou. I'm not sure what you meant. If that was two or something else. Beth. So technical difficulties. That's about it. Yeah, I had technical difficulties tonight. Yeah, Steve, I know exactly what caused the problem earlier. I can let you know right now. I don't know why it happened, but I had another program altogether unassociated with my browser and with my YouTube that was taking over the camera and pushing out a message to YouTube that the camera should be accessed through that program. But I couldn't broadcast through that program. So it was creating a problem and took a while to dig that out. And I finally had to eliminate that program altogether from the computer and then reboot the computer before I could make anything work. And it took us almost 40 minutes to do that, to figure it out. So I'm glad we got on it all tonight. So I appreciate your being back here, Steve. Looking at yourself. Exactly, Beth Kirkland. I see where you're going with that now. It's a great continuation of last week's topics. We're going to go on for this for a couple of nights. Let's see if I can wrap up what we can talk about tonight. Some of these other things here, I'm starting to go through the things that create all of these things in somebody's personality. And so far, we've looked at deception. We've looked at psychological consequences. We're going to look at callousness, and you have to understand the lack of empathy among the dark triad personalities that research examined effective empathy which is the ability to have this appropriate emotional response to others' emotions and cognitive empathy, the ability to discern others' emotional states is gone. There's callousness. Like think, rub the bottom of your feet or your hands. If you work with your hands, the calluses that are there, they built up a callousness, so they don't feel that, and they certainly don't empathize with other people. That's gone in these personality types. And they found that all three of these personality types lacked effective empathy, but had unimpaired cognitive empathy. Let me repeat that. They lacked effective empathy, where I can affect you or others, but they had unimpaired cognitive empathy, meaning cognitively they could empathize, but not in an actual effective state. So creepily, all three felt positive looking at sad faces and felt negative seeing happy images. It's like the happiness thing, there's something in them that turned them off. They responded negatively. But the sadness kind of turned them on a bit. Narcissists and psychopaths felt good seeing angry faces, and psychopaths liked seeing fearful faces. That's kind of creepy, isn't it? And overall, empathy was the lowest among psychopaths and Machiavellians. And study participants who were high on any of the three personality profiles had the lowest effective empathy. Narcissists scored the highest on cognitive empathy. And the fact that these people are insensitive to other people's feelings while retaining the ability to assess others' emotions allows them to strategically manipulate people while ignoring the harm that they inflict. So that's what a lot of these personality types do. They can understand other people's emotions, but they don't care how their actions affect those emotions. So there you go. And they can fake it. Yeah, they can, Beth. I had an ex, like I said, that faked it very well. And that's EWW in comments about. What is Ewan comments about? Oh, okay. I see where you're talking about, Steve. On another thing there. And Amanda wants to rant now. Go ahead and rant, Amanda B. So we're almost to the close of the show, but we don't have a strict end time. We got about 5 minutes left. And because we started late, and I appreciate all of you being here and listening and giving you your time. Amanda said, could I maybe? No, that's bad. um, Matt Finn says maybe exacerbated by a lack of self-awareness. This is that emotional intelligence, Matt. There's a lack of that. And so if I ever, here's the thing. If you do things that could be labeled narcissistic or psychopathic, many of us probably don't have psychopathic personality traits. But if you got any of these dark three and you catch yourself in something that might be a quality trait of those personality types, and you don't have, and you have the ability to stop it, but you don't, that's that affective cognitive awareness, along with a lack of effective awareness. There you go. Or empathy. Effective empathy is gone, but you have cognitive empathy, which means you know exactly what you're doing and how it affects people. Steve, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you got here because of the love here. Man, it's here. And I feel it from all of you, and I appreciate it. So, yeah, there's lots of things out there, lots of lectures, lots of reading, lots of books on the red flags to look for in this stuff. You're right, Beth. I see Delaney, you got some interesting things. I had to consistently call my Rick. He was a narcissist psychopath for him to see himself. His mom was shitty, Shirley bad mom. Our son was asking him, Dad, why are you a narcissistic psychopath? That really hit him hard. Yeah. I think sometimes narcissists don't care when they hear that stuff. The only way they care is that it affects how they're able to manipulate somebody. And they need to back out of that. And so there we go. Um, Matt Finn sent out a link. Matt, go ahead and post it here again if anybody wants to go listen to this guy. Matt, if you got the link handy, go ahead and put it in the chat room. You can go listen to this link that Matt gave us all. And let's see. I'm wondering if we can get through any more of this and really do anything. You can also take, by the way, the Dark Triad test. You know that exists. If you're afraid that any of this might be affecting you and that you're actually like this, the test deals with the negative side of psychology. And if you decide to take the test, you might get a negative description of your personality that can possibly upset you. So use the test at your own risk. Tomorrow night, I'll give you a link for this thing. And the test provides information on dark triad traits. And it's for educational purposes only, really. So there is, and this comes out with Individual Differences Research, idrlabs.com. You can take the Dark Triad test. And the Dark Triad is a personality inventory that explores the socially undesirable traits of narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. And the Dark Triad test is often used by police and the court system, and in psychiatric wards and evaluations, and even in big corporations. And the studies have shown that people who score high on the Dark Triad are more likely to commit crimes or get in trouble with the law, and also more likely to cause social distress among their friends or problems for their workplace. When you take a test like this, by the way, you have to be honest as you take it, honest with yourself. Nobody's going to look at your answers unless it's being done for you officially. You could take this test and find out where you stand. Like here's question 1 of 36 questions. All people are deserving of basic respect. Do you disagree or agree? Yes or no? Agree or disagree? All people are deserving of basic respect. You can look at I have good relations with my family. Agree or disagree? Most people are lazy and don't work hard unless they have to. Do you disagree or agree? What you think of? You can take that question, just make it any of these questions could become a topic. Are most people lazy and they don't work unless they have to? You look at it and go, yeah, I kind of think so. Most people would rather not have to work if they don't have to. Is that the same thing as being lazy? I don't know. So you have to be honest with your answers. I mislead people so as to look better in their eyes. Now, that's one of those questions where you would have to answer that honestly. Do I mislead people so I look better to them? I used to worry about that with this radio show. I used to worry about that with the way I talk about my family and the way I put forward my personal issues. Because I used to think, boy, if people knew that about me, maybe they wouldn't like me. Maybe they wouldn't want to listen to my show. People knew that I yelled at my wife, or my wife yelled at me, or we both yelled at our kids, or I spanked my kids, or my house is a mess, or something like that. I've had photos that I put up on Facebook where I'm like, oh man, there's spilled goldfish crackers all over the rug, and I blot them out in Photoshop so the house doesn't look like a disaster in some of the pictures. Things like that. Do you do that? Is that being dishonest? And I would think about those, and I think, man, am I being dishonest with people? There's Matt's link. He said he first found this clip when exploring the space within myself, and it reminded me a lot of our current conversation. The show's inspired me to give it to another listen. So Steve said to me, ink blots are just ink blots, and I told them so many times, yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes an ink blot is just an ink blot. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, as Freud said. So so there's this test, and you can take this. It's the Dark Triad test. If you want, I'll put up a link to this. See. And if you want in your own time to go take this test, you can do that. And you can see where you fall. But beware of something. If you take this test honestly, it might reveal some darkness in you're not prepared for. And this is a test that's used by law enforcement, the court system. It's a pretty highly rated test. You want the link? You still want the link? If you guys want the link, I'll put it in here, and you can go take that test and kind of to prepare for tomorrow. Did you piss on my lawn, Matt Finn? Get off my lawn. You're not pissing on my lawn. I asked you to put that link up. That's great. It's good stuff. It's contributing. You're planting more seeds in my lawn. You're planting flowers in the flower bed, so to speak. More vegetables in the Liberty Garden. So I'm going to listen to that. I just haven't had a chance to yet, Matt. Beth Kirkham says she listened to it. So, folks, here's the link. Boom. You can go take a look at that. It's going to give you a little warning ahead of time that you're dealing with something that might reveal something about yourself. So be careful as you take it. And if you want to know these things about yourself, I can look at a couple more of those questions. The next one was, I want others to admire me. Agree or disagree? Now, that's a question that could be taken very badly, be taken very well. I want people to admire me. I would answer, I agree to that. I want people to admire me. It's how it links up with a bunch of the other questions. I want people to admire what I have to say. Now, the differences on those, there's a scale of admiration. I want my kids to admire me. I want my kids to love and respect their dad and to admire me. Is that the same thing as love and respect? We're talking about putting on a pedestal, or are we talking about, do I want people to put me on a pedestal, or do I want people to look at me and say, I respect him, I admire his personality and the way he is? But the question is just a blank question. I want others to admire me. Is that a narcissistic trait? If we do, yeah. Is it necessarily a bad trait? No. So we all have a little bit of narcissism. It's whether or not we're narcissistic by definition. Let's look at a couple more of these because they're kind of interesting. Being ethical is more important than getting ahead in the world. Agree or disagree? Like I say, these questions could all make individual topics all on their own. Let me ask you, is getting ahead in the world more important to you than being ethical? And it's like saying, when I look at the work I'm doing now, if somebody says, I want the roof repaired, and I've got this deck, but the deck's falling apart, but that's old damage. It didn't happen in the storm. And if I said, well, we can make more money off this job if we listed the deck as storm damage and got them more insurance money out of it. It would take two unethical people to do that. Number one, me to suggest it, and them to say, yeah, okay, let's do that. And I've got that very situation that's going on right now. And I actually told the customer, I said, well, the deck, we can't fit that under the storm claim, but we can fit it under your homeowner's claim. Or you might have to pay for that. And she said, well, I do have money. I can pay cash for that if I need to. So we try to get our customers all that we can out of the insurance. But if we do something unethical to get ahead with something, would you do that? It's a leading question, said Susie. There's no good answer. Nobody's going to admire me if I say I want them to. You don't want to have them have to tell them that it should be just evident of your good works. Yeah, there's lots of things like that. That's why these are very personal questions. I have no problem telling you when I answered that admire question. Hell yeah, I want people to admire me, but not in the sense that some may define that. The admiration I think I would be looking for is people like me because I'm ethical, because I'm honest, because um, I'm a good person. Those are the things I would look for, but that's defining the question. The question's just blank. You're right, Susie Q. So my mom just had a crooked contractor just try this, try to commit fraud with her insurance. There you go, Matt. I've seen it. And we've got to be very careful of that out here. Ethical for sure. You have to be ethical. Steve just said it. I'd rather be ethical than get ahead by not being ethical. And I've known people who have tried to get ahead by being unethical about something. That shady gray area of do we do this or that? If I do this, it's not really ethical, but I can make more money. So I'd rather be an ethical person. Doesn't mean I don't need the money. It means I'd rather be known for having a good reputation. And I've done things, believe me, in my past where I've hurt other people. Not because I was necessarily unethical, but because I made mistakes. And I know there were times I learned to be more ethical because I was unethical and it hurt people. That was a long time ago. You'll learn those lessons. Let's just look at a couple more of these before we go tonight. I have grandiose tendencies. Agree or disagree? I get frustrated easily. For me, I was livid and frustrated earlier tonight when all of a sudden I hit that go live button for this show at 9 p.m. And you know what happened? The tech was all screwed up. You could hear my voice. I could have gone, well, let's just go on and do an audio show and let it water off a duck's back. But I wanted to fix the problem. And it frustrated me. It took me 40 minutes, 38 minutes about to get it figured out. And it was frustrating as hell. So, do I get frustrated easily? Yeah. Certain things, not everything. I don't always get frustrated with people I love and relationships, but I get frustrated. Let's do two more and be done. I expect special favors from others. Agree or disagree? I expect you to give me special favors. I'm adding to the question, but because of who I am. Now, it's not asking that. It's just saying, I expect special favors from others. You agree with that or disagree for yourself? And last one for tonight. I fantasize about extraordinary prestige or status. Agree or disagree? I fantasize about extraordinary prestige or status. Is it a fantasy of yours? So there you go. Thank you, Steve. I tried not to let my frustration get the best of me, but I was livid over on this. And I go, Pete, my friend here, I asked, he's an IT guy. And I said, Pete, I'm on this PC of yours. What the hell is wrong with this? And there was a few colorful expletives, a few F bombs flying around, a few goddammits and shit and all of that coming out of my mouth. But that's because I was like, God damn this thing. It's not working. Why is it drawing on that when outside? I never set that and the settings are all wrong. That's where I finally had to throw out the other program that I wasn't even using, but YouTube was telling me it was using that program to access my camera. So I had to finally throw the program out and reboot the computer. Then it worked. But it took 40 minutes to get there. So thank you, Steve. And tenacity. Thank you, Susie Q. I like to think I have some tenacity. And so, folks, that's where we're going to wrap it for tonight. There's more, so much more to talk about on these things, and we're going to save it for tomorrow. We got the big test we want to do. Come with a piece of paper and a pen, or a pencil, or a crayon if you prefer, or a whiteboard and markers, whatever you want to do. So listen along to it. And you know what? You don't even have to do that. You can just listen for the fun of it. Kind of answer it in your head as you go and just have fun. So we're going to take this personality test tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Dark Triad tomorrow night. And this whole thing on how do you recognize it? How do you recognize psychopathology? How do you recognize Machiavellianism? How do you recognize narcissism? We're going to ask those questions, and there's a lot of material here. Dark Triad patterns, relationship patterns, lying, infidelity, as I defined it, jealousy and revenge, superficial relationships, relationships that don't last, so on. We're going to look at all these things. We're going to examine this in a little tighter fashion tomorrow night. So, folks, there we are. We've been going about an hour, and I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, Barbie D. It's interesting stuff to me, too. And Scott Allen said that JV's show is a rerun. Okay, that's good. Hopefully, everything will work tomorrow, and the computer will not have reset things for me again without my input. Steve Clark will be here with bells on his toes, rings on his fingers, and bells on his toes. Say, has anybody seen my Steve Clark rose? Well, that didn't work. It just was a quickie. So, everybody, you take care of yourselves for tonight. Thanks for being here. Thanks for giving me your time. Thanks for listening. I appreciate that. If you have not joined my channel, please do. Go down, hit the join button, and under that join button brings up 3 membership categories you can choose from. Go take a look at them and choose them. And that helps me and hopefully helps you in the long run. And so you all have a great night. I will see you tomorrow at 10 p.m. East and 9 p.m. Central and 8 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. California, and way out there in Australia, I think 2 p.m. in the afternoon the next day. I don't know how it works anymore. I can't come back. I don't know how it works. Famous lines of a wizard. And so, folks, you have a good night. I'm going to end this stream now. You be good to each other, be good to yourself, and live long and prosper. Talk to you later.